A street kid found a dying girl in an alley clutching a pendant with a number engraved inside. He called it without thinking. What he didn't know, the voice on the other end belonged to the Alpha King of the Shadow Pack, and the girl he saved was his only daughter. The city never slept, but it had quiet hours. 6 p.m. was one of them. Liam pulled his threadbare jacket tighter against the November frost, his boots silent on the cobblestone as he made his way through the industrial district. His canvas bag hung light against his hip. Only 3 aluminum cans tonight, a broken watch he might sell for parts, and half a protein bar he'd saved from yesterday. Maybe enough to get through tomorrow, if he was careful. The alley behind the old Thornwell factory was his usual shortcut. He knew every rusted fire escape, every boarded window, every shadow where he could disappear if the wrong people showed up. 18 months on the streets had taught him to be invisible, to take what he needed and never look back. He was halfway through when he saw her. A girl, maybe 8 years old, collapsed against the brick wall like a discarded puppet. Her platinum hair spilled across the filthy pavement, catching the distant streetlight like spun moonlight. Liam froze. Every instinct screamed at him to keep walking. Street rule number 1. Mind your own business. People who got involved in other people's problems ended up hurt, dead, or worse. But she was just a kid, smaller than him. Hey. His voice came out rougher than he intended, echoing off the alley walls. No response. He approached slowly, scanning the shadows for anyone watching. Drug deals gone wrong. Gang territory disputes. Child trafficking. He'd seen it all in these alleys, learned to recognize the signs, learned to run. But the girl was alone. As he got closer, his breath caught. Her clothes were wrong. A crimson velvet gown that looked like it belonged in some European castle, not crumpled in the grime of Warehouse Row. The fabric shimmered with an almost liquid quality, embroidered with intricate silver wolf head patterns that seemed to shift in the dim light. Antique lace trimmed the high collar. The dress looked ancient, priceless, the kind of expensive that didn't end up in this part of the city unless something had gone very, very wrong. Liam dropped to his knees beside her, his bag forgotten. "Can you hear me?" He pressed 2 fingers against her neck the way he'd seen EMTs do once, searching for a pulse. Nothing. He tried her wrist. Still nothing. But her skin was cold. Not dead body cold, but winter night cold, like she'd been lying in a freezer. And she was pale, not sick pale or shock pale, but bone-white pale, translucent, like he could trace the faint blue tracery of veins beneath her skin, even in the darkness. Come on, he muttered, tilting her head back to check for breathing. That's when he noticed her hand. Small fingers were clenched around something at her throat. He gently uncurled them.
Un pendant.
A massive obsidian stone carved into a howling wolf's head, surrounded by silver thorns worked in intricate Celtic knotwork. The craftsmanship was extraordinary, archaic, like something a medieval queen would wear. The wolf's eyes were tiny rubies that seemed to glow faintly in the darkness. He turned it over, and his heart stopped. Numbers were etched into the back in jagged, claw-like script. A phone number. Liam stared at the unconscious girl, then at the pendant, then back at the girl. This was wrong. Wrong dress, wrong jewelry, wrong temperature, wrong everything. He should run. Should get as far from this as possible before whoever owned that pendant came looking. People who dressed kids like this, who made jewelry like this, were dangerous. Powerful. The kind of powerful that made people disappear. But she wasn't breathing. Or at least he couldn't tell if she was. His phone, a battered prepaid he'd bought for $15 at a corner store, was already in his hand. Before he could talk himself out of it, he dialed. 1 ring. 2 rings. Who is using the royal line? The voice that answered wasn't a greeting. It was a command. Deep, resonant, with an accent that sounded ancient, old-world European, maybe the kind of voice that made you stand up straighter even through a phone. It carried weight, authority, and something else. Something that made the hair on the back of Liam's neck stand up. Liam's voice cracked. He cleared his throat, trying to sound older, more in control. I found a girl. She's unconscious in an alley off Thornwell, near the old factory district. She's not breathing right. I think she's really cold, and she's wearing this pendant with your number on it. Describe her. The voice cut through his words like a blade, sharp and absolute. Maybe 8 years old. Really pale. Platinum blonde hair. Wearing this fancy dress. Like really fancy. Museum fancy. Red velvet with silver wolves. What color are her eyes? I don't know. They're closed. She's unconscious. Open them. The command in that voice left no room for argument. It wasn't a request. It was an order from someone who had never been disobeyed in his life. Liam's hands shook as he gently lifted one of the girl's eyelids. He gasped. Her iris was silver, pure, metallic silver, but within it, tiny flecks of gold seemed to pulse like embers, like living fire trapped in moonlight. Silver, he whispered, but with gold moving gold things. The silence on the other end stretched, so long Liam thought the call had dropped. Your name. It wasn't a question. Liam. Look, this kid needs a hospital. Stay exactly where you are. Each word was measured, controlled, but underneath Liam heard something raw. Fear, maybe, or fury. Do not let anyone approach her. Do not remove the pendant. Do not call anyone else. We are coming. Wait, who? The line went dead. Liam stared at his phone, his mind racing. We? Who is we? Should he call 911 anyway? But something in that voice had been absolutely certain, desperate even, though it was wrapped in steel and command. He looked down at the girl. She seemed even paler now, if that was possible. Her lips had a faint blue tinge. On impulse, he shrugged off his jacket and draped it over her small frame, then sat back against the wall beside her, keeping watch. His fingers found the switchblade in his pocket, a cheap knife he traded for last month. Not much, but it was something. For minutes passed. Maybe 5. Then he heard them. No sirens. No screeching tires. Just the whisper-quiet rumble of powerful engines. 3 black SUVs glided into the alley. Massive vehicles with tinted windows that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. They shouldn't have fit. The alley was barely wide enough for a delivery truck, but they moved with impossible precision, stopping in perfect formation just feet from where he crouched. The doors opened in perfect synchronization. The figures that emerged wore long black tactical coats that gleamed like wet ink in the dim light. 7 of them, moving with a fluid, predatory grace that made Liam's survival instincts scream. Dangerous. Hunter. Run. They wore no uniforms, but something about the way they moved, coordinated, efficient, lethal, screamed military or something worse. Something other. The tallest one approached first. Even in his coat, he had to be over 6'5". In the shadow of his hood, Liam caught glimpses of sharp features and eyes that reflected the streetlight wrong. Too bright, too amber, like a wolf's. You called Alpha King Lucas Kale, the man said, his voice respectful but wary, as he knelt beside the girl. His hands moved over her with practiced efficiency, checking vitals, examining the pendant, assessing the scene with the speed of a trained medic. Step back, boy. Is she going to be okay? Liam didn't move. What's wrong with her? The man's head snapped toward him, and for just a second, Liam saw his eyes clearly in the light from the SUVs. They were amber. Actual glowing amber, like backlit honey, with a vertical slit pupil. You found Princess Alara alive. That is all that matters. He gestured, and 2 others moved forward with what looked like a medical stretcher, all padding and restraints and equipment Liam didn't recognize. But you have contacted the king directly. He will want to speak with you. Princess. The word came out as a squeak. Liam hated how young he sounded. Princess of what? The man stood, and Liam suddenly realized just how much larger he was. How all of them were larger, broader, more solid than any human had a right to be. Of the Shadow Pack. The man's lips pulled back slightly, and Liam saw teeth.
Too many teeth.
Too sharp. You have entered a world you do not understand, boy. And now that you've called the royal line. He glanced at the others, something unreadable passing between them. There is no going back. Behind them, a fourth vehicle pulled into the alley entrance. This one was different.
Sleeker.
A black luxury car that purred like a living thing. The door opened, and a man stepped out. He wore a burgundy overcoat that moved like liquid in the wind, tailored perfectly over a dark suit. His hair was long, tawny brown with streaks of silver, pulled back from a face that was both beautiful and terrifying, sharp cheekbones, a strong jaw, and eyes that glowed molten gold even from 30 feet away. Everyone stopped. Everyone straightened. The man walked forward with a king's bearing, and Liam understood with crystal clarity. This was the voice on the phone. Alpha King Lucas Kale. And as those burning gold eyes locked onto Liam with an intensity that stripped away every defense, every lie, every secret he'd ever kept, Liam realized something else. His life as an invisible street kid was over. They didn't ask. They didn't explain. The guards simply gestured Liam toward the lead SUV, while others loaded Alara's stretcher into a medical vehicle with movements so synchronized it looked choreographed. Get in. The tall guard's voice left no room for negotiation. Liam's fingers tightened around his knife, still hidden in his pocket. Where are we going? The king has summoned you. You will answer his questions. The amber eyes narrowed. You will do so willingly, or we will make you willing. Choose.
Liam chose.
The drive took 20 minutes through streets he didn't recognize, winding deeper into the old city where Gothic architecture loomed like sleeping giants. They stopped before iron gates that seemed to materialize from fog itself, opening soundlessly onto grounds that shouldn't exist in the middle of the city. Acres of dark forest surrounding a fortress of black stone and leaded glass that looked older than the country itself. The Blackwood Citadel. Inside, the temperature dropped 10 degrees. Torchlight flickered along stone corridors carved with wolves in various stages of hunt and battle. Liam's footsteps echoed despite his attempt at silence. They led him through a maze of passages until massive oak doors swung open, revealing a chamber that stole his breath. The council room was circular, its domed ceiling disappearing into shadows. 12 high-backed chairs formed a semicircle around a central floor inlaid with silver, a massive wolf constellation that seemed to glow with inner light. And in those chairs sat figures who made the guards look tame. Men and women in formal dark clothing, all watching him with eyes that reflected gold, amber, silver in the firelight. Alpha King Lucas Kale sat elevated at the chamber's head, his presence filling the space like pressure before a storm. Name. Not a question. A command. Liam. His voice sounded too small in the vast chamber. Family name? Don't have one.
Age.
12. I think. You think. This voice came from Liam's left, a man with silver-white hair and ice-blue eyes that held nothing but contempt. His council robes were embroidered with more silver than the others, marking him as someone important. Street vermin who cannot even recall his own age touches the royal air and expects us to believe coincidence. Elder Valerius, the king's voice cut like a blade. He saved her. Or poisoned her and played hero. Valerius stood, his movements fluid despite his apparent age. How convenient that a human urchin finds her precisely when she collapses. How convenient that he knows to call the royal line. He turned those cold eyes on Liam. What were you paid? Who sent you? Nobody sent me. I found her in an alley. She wasn't breathing. Ilara was at a secured location. Valerius circled closer, and Liam caught a scent like winter ice and old blood. Only 3 people knew her out. Yet here you appear, a child who should be invisible to us, holding the royal pendant. He leaned down, and Liam saw his pupils elongate. What are you?
I'm nobody.
I'm just lying. The word was a growl. Enough. The king rose, and everyone fell silent. The boy will remain here until... The chamber doors burst open. Medical staff rushed in carrying the stretcher, but Ilara was sitting up now, the color returning to her porcelain features. Her silver eyes swept the room, confused, frightened, until they landed on Liam. Everything stopped. The little girl's nostrils flared. Her head tilted in a distinctly wolf-like gesture. Then she smiled, bright and certain, and spoke her first word since waking. Pack. Her voice rang with absolute conviction. He smells like Pack. The council chamber erupted.
Impossible.
How could a human? She must still be poisoned.
Check her again.
But the king stared at Liam with new intensity, and something shifted behind those golden eyes. Recognition, maybe. Or suspicion. Ilara pushed past her attendants and walked straight to Liam, taking his hand with complete trust. You found me, she said simply. You're supposed to find me. You're the one the moon showed me. Liam stared at the small hand in his, feeling warmth spread up his arm. Strange, right? Terrifying. Valerius's voice cut through the chaos, sharp with accusation. My king, this proves it. The boy carries an enchantment, dark magic to fool even the princess. His smile was cold. We should eliminate the threat. Immediately. But Ilara's grip tightened, and for the first time in 18 months, Liam didn't feel alone. They let him go at dawn, but Liam knew better than to believe he was free. The king's final words echoed in his head as the black SUV dropped him 3 blocks from his hideout. You will not leave the city. You will answer when we call. And you will tell no one what you've seen. It wasn't a request. It was a leash. Liam watched the vehicle disappear into morning traffic, then immediately doubled back through 2 alleys and across a fire escape. If they were watching, and they were definitely watching, he'd make them work for it. His hideout was in the basement of an abandoned pharmacy, accessible only through a loose grate in the back alley. He'd lived there for 7 months. It wasn't much. A sleeping bag, some canned food, a battery-powered lamp, and a duffel bag with everything he owned.
But it was his, and it was hidden.
The grate was open. Liam froze, every survival instinct screaming. He never left it open. Never. He should run. Should disappear into the city and find a new place. But all his supplies were down there. The small amount of cash he'd saved. His only photo, a faded picture of a woman he barely remembered, but knew was his mother. He descended slowly, switchblade open in his hand. The basement was dark except for a sliver of gray morning light from a high window. Everything looked untouched. His sleeping bag was still rolled in the corner. His duffel bag sat where he'd left it. But something was different.
Wrong.
On top of his sleeping bag sat a small wooden box he'd never seen before, old and carved with the same Celtic wolf patterns from Ilara's pendant. Liam's hand shook as he opened it. Inside was a glass vial no bigger than his thumb, filled with liquid that shimmered silver and gold like captured moonlight. And beneath it, a piece of paper, folded and yellowed with age. He recognized the handwriting immediately. The same looping script from the one letter he'd kept, the one he'd read so many times the edges had worn soft. His mother's handwriting. Liam, if you're reading this, it means you've been marked. They will come for you now, not Lucas's people, but the others. The ones who fear what you are more than they fear death itself. The vial contains 1 dose of what your father's kind call moondust serum. It will save a life, but only once. Use it wisely. You are more than they told you. More than I could protect you from. Trust the king. Trust the girl. Trust your blood. You were never meant to be invisible.
M.
Liam read it 3 times, his mind racing. Marked? His father's kind? What did she? The smell hit him first. Wet dog and copper, but wrong, rotten, like meat left in summer heat.
He spun around.
3 figures stood between him and the great exit, and they definitely weren't the king's guards. These were smaller, leaner, with movements that twitched and jerked like broken puppets. Their eyes glowed sickly yellow in the darkness, and when they smiled, their teeth were too long, too sharp, growing even as he watched. The hybrid whelp, the center one rasped, his voice layered with growls. Valerius sends his regards. Liam grabbed the vial and his knife, backing toward the far wall. I don't know what you're talking about. Your mother was a liar. Your father was a fool. And you. The rogue shifter's form rippled, bones cracking and reforming. You're an abomination that should have been drowned at birth. They lunged. Liam threw his lamp at the nearest one and rolled left, but claws raked across his shoulder, hot and burning. He screamed, slashing wildly with his knife. The blade caught fur and flesh, and the shifter howled. Then the basement window exploded inward. The king's guards dropped through the opening like avenging angels, all silver weapons and coordinated fury. The fight lasted seconds. The rogues didn't stand a chance. The tall guard from before grabbed Liam, checking his bleeding shoulder with hands that were surprisingly gentle. You're coming back to the Citadel. Now. How did you? We never stopped watching you, boy. The guard's amber eyes softened slightly. The king suspected they'd make a move. He was right. He glanced at the vial clutched in Liam's fist. And it seems your mother suspected too. Liam looked at the note, at the vial, at the unconscious rogues being dragged away. Trust your blood. He was beginning to understand he had no choice. Alara found him in the guest wing 3 nights later, pressing a finger to her lips before he could speak. The guards changed shifts in 4 minutes, she whispered, her silver eyes bright with mischief and something deeper, determination. There's something you need to see. Something they won't tell you. Liam had spent those 3 days in a gilded cage, his shoulder bandaged and healing impossibly fast. The king's physicians had examined him with instruments that hummed and glowed, exchanging looks he couldn't read. Valerius had visited once, his contempt barely masked as concern. A human boy shouldn't heal like that, he'd said. Unless he's not entirely human. Now Alara tugged his hand, leading him through a servant's passage he hadn't known existed. The stone walls were narrow, carved with old pack symbols that seemed to pulse in the torchlight. Where are we going? The archives. The real ones, not the ones they show visitors. She glanced back, and he saw fear mixed with her resolve. I heard them talking. Your mother's name. They have her journal, Liam. They've had it all along. The passage opened into a circular chamber deep beneath the citadel, its walls lined floor to ceiling with ancient texts, scrolls, and leather-bound books that smelled of time and secrets. In the center stood a single pedestal, and on it, a journal bound in worn brown leather. Liam's hands shook as he opened it. His mother's handwriting covered every page, but these entries were different from her letter, detailed, desperate, dated across 12 years. Lucas doesn't know yet. I should tell him, but the prophecy, if the council learns what our son is, they'll kill him to prevent it. The Ember Heart cannot be born into a world that will extinguish him. He flipped forward, his heart hammering. Liam turned 3 today. He shifted for the first time, just for a moment.
Impossible.
Beautiful.
Terrifying.
I have to take him away. I have to hide what he is, even from himself. Further still, the Moondust Serum, the cure for silver poisoning, for pack trauma, for the wounds that never heal. The council destroyed all records when they banned hybrid births, but I've reconstructed it. If anyone discovers this formula, they'll know what it means. They'll know hybrids are the key to everything they've lost. The next page showed a child's rhyme, the kind a mother would sing at bedtime. Moon and ember, silver and gold, heal the broken, mend the old, 3-drop starlight, 2 of stone, 1 of heart blood, never alone. Liam's throat tightened. He knew the song. She'd sung it to him, over and over, in the last apartment before she died. He'd thought it was just a lullaby. It's not a song, Alara breathed, reading over his shoulder. It's the formula. She hid it in a lullaby so you'd remember. The final entry was dated 3 days before his mother died. They found us. I don't know how, but Valerius knows. He wants to use Liam, weaponize him against Lucas, against the whole pack structure. I won't let him. I've left the boy everything he needs, the serum sample, this journal's location, the truth. Liam, my ember heart, you were born to heal what others would keep broken. Your father is Alpha King Lucas Kale. Your sister is Princess Alara. You are the bridge between 2 worlds that have hated each other for centuries. You're not an abomination. You are a miracle. And you are the only one who can save them all. The journal slipped from Liam's fingers. His father. The king was his father. Alara was his sister. Every suspicious look, every whispered conversation, every test they'd known or suspected. And his mother had died keeping him secret. Liam? Alara's small hand found his. Are you okay? He looked at her, really looked at her, and saw his own silver gold eyes reflected back in a different pattern. Family. Pack. Everything he'd never had and never thought he'd want. No, he said honestly, but I will be. Behind them, footsteps echoed in the passage. Heavy, purposeful, multiple guards. They'd been found. But as Liam tucked the journal under his shirt and faced the entrance with Alara beside him, he wasn't the same scared street kid who'd made a phone call in an alley. He was Prince Liam Kale, and he had work to do. The training yard was empty at dawn, exactly as the king had promised. Liam stood in the center of the packed earth circle, facing his father for the first time since learning the truth. Lucas Kale watched him with those burning gold eyes, his expression unreadable. Your mother kept you human to protect you, but protection time is over. He gestured to a wooden post 20 feet away. Break it. I can't just. You're angry. I can smell it on you. Angry at me for not finding you sooner. Angry at your mother for lying. Angry at yourself for being what you are. The king's voice was cold, clinical. Use it. Liam felt the rage coiling in his chest, hot and wild. He'd spent 3 days learning his entire life was a lie, that his mother had died running from people who wanted to use him, that his father, this man, had been alive and powerful the whole time he'd been starving in alleys.
He swung.
His fist connected with the post, and the world exploded in splinters. The wooden beam didn't just break. It disintegrated, shards embedding in the wall 30 feet behind it. Liam stared at his unmarked hand, then at the destruction, his heart hammering. Again, the king commanded, pointing to another post. Faster this time. The second post lasted even less. The third cracked before Liam's fist fully connected, the shockwave rippling through the ground. By the fifth, his control was fragmenting, power surging through his veins like liquid fire, beautiful and terrifying and completely unstable. Enough. Lucas caught his wrist mid-swing, his grip iron strong. You're losing yourself to it. That's when you become dangerous. I thought that was the point. Dangerous to them, yes. But you're also dangerous to us. To Alara. The king's expression softened fractionally. Hybrid power is immense, but it's tied to emotion. Fear, rage, love, they're all triggers. You must learn control, or you'll burn yourself out. Over the next week, Liam discovered the full scope of his abilities. He could run faster than the king's fastest guards, his feet barely touching ground. He could hear conversations 3 rooms away. His injuries healed while he watched, skin knitting together in minutes. Once, when a training blade accidentally cut deep, he bled silver gold before the wound sealed itself. But the power was erratic, wild. When he thought of his mother, strength surged uncontrollably. When he worried about Alara, his senses sharpened to painful clarity. Fear made him fast. Anger made him unstoppable. And the king noticed everything. "They'll use this against you," Lucas warned after Liam accidentally shattered a steel training sword. "Valerius and his faction. They'll trigger your emotions until you lose control, then claim you're too dangerous to live." That's when the plan formed. 2 days later, Liam stood in the council chamber, the king's newest advisor, positioned exactly where Valerius would see him as a threat. They'd argued about it. Lucas reluctant to risk his son, Liam insistent this was the only way. "If he's working with the rogues, he'll make a move," Liam had said. "Let him." Valerius took the bait faster than expected. Liam was crossing the eastern courtyard alone, seemingly alone, when the elder approached, his smile cold and calculated. "Walk with me, boy. There are things about your father you should know." They walked toward the old gardens, away from the main buildings, away from witnesses. Liam kept his breathing steady, knowing the king's guard shadowed them from the rooftops. "Your mother understood what you are," Valerius said softly. "A weapon. The perfect tool to reshape pack hierarchy. With your abilities, we could overthrow the old blood, establish a new order where power matters more than lineage." Liam stopped walking. "I protected your mother for years, gave her resources to perfect the moondust formula. All I asked was that she share the boy when he came of age." Valerius's eyes glinted. "Then Lucas's guards found her. Tragic, really. But you're here now, and the plan continues. You killed her." The words came out flat, cold, as rage ignited in Liam's chest. "You sent them to our apartment. I sent them to retrieve her research." She fought. "Humans are so fragile." Valerius shrugged. "But her death gave you motivation, didn't it? Made you hungry for belonging, for power. Made you perfect." Liam's vision tinged red. Power surged through his limbs, unstable and explosive. His hands began to glow silver gold. "There it is," Valerius breathed. "Show me what you can do." Guards dropped from the rooftops, but they weren't the kings. Rogues, their yellow eyes gleaming, surrounding them both. Valerius smiled. "Now, shall we discuss terms?" The trap had been sprung, but not the trap Valerius expected. The king's guards hit the rooftops a heartbeat too late. Valerius moved with impossible speed, silver chains materializing in his hands as his rogues swarmed forward. Liam felt power explode through him, uncontrolled and white-hot, but 3 rogues slammed into him before he could channel it. Claws raked his chest. Teeth found his shoulder. He screamed, and the courtyard erupted. The shockwave threw bodies 20 feet in every direction. Stone cracked beneath Liam's feet, spiderwebbing outward in silver gold light. 2 rogues didn't get up, but neither did Liam's control. Power poured from him like a dam breaking, wild and devastating and completely beyond his command. "Contain him," Valerius's voice cut through the chaos. "Silver nets now." Weighted chains laced with silver thread fell from above, wrapping around Liam's arms and chest. The metal burned where it touched skin, but instead of weakening him, the pain fed the rage. He roared, ripping through the chains like paper, his hands glowing so bright they hurt to look at. The king's forces crashed into the garden, Lucas at their head, already mid-shift. His coat tore as bone and muscle reformed, as his humanity gave way to something massive and terrifying, a wolf the size of a bear, with golden eyes that blazed with fury. But Valerius was already moving, already 3 steps ahead. "One more move, my king, and your daughter dies." Everyone froze. From the shadows of the garden arch, 2 rogues emerged, dragging Alara between them. She struggled, her small face tear-streaked but defiant, a silver blade pressed against her throat. The metal smoked where it touched her skin. Lucas shifted back instantly, his voice raw. "Let her go, Valerius. This is between us.
No.
This is about the future of the pack." Valerius gestured to Liam, still crackling with unstable power, barely holding human form. "Look at him. Your abomination son, destroying everything he touches. The old bloodlines are dying, Lucas. We need new power, controlled power, or we'll be extinct in a generation." "So you'd murder children?" The king's hands shook with barely restrained violence. "You'd tear apart the pack for your ambition? I'd save the pack from your weakness." Valerius's smile was cold. "Here's your choice, Alpha King. Abdicate now. Name me regent until the boy is trained and controllable, and I'll let Alara live. Refuse, and I'll slit her throat with silver and let your hybrid son watch another family member die because of you." Liam's vision swam red. Power surged again, uncontrollable, threatening to tear him apart from the inside. He could feel his bones trying to shift, his skin burning, his heart hammering so hard it might explode. "Don't." Alara's voice cut through the chaos, small but absolutely steady. "Daddy, don't. Liam, don't." Lucas met Liam's eyes across the garden, and something passed between them. Understanding. Trust. A father seeing his son clearly for the first time. "I'll give you what you want," the king said slowly, each word a death sentence for his reign. "Just let her go."
No.
Liam's voice came out layered with growls, human and wolf simultaneously. "He's lying. He'll kill her anyway." "Smart boy." Valerius yanked Alara closer, the blade drawing a thin line of blood. But too late. The king has made his choice. That's when Liam understood. The power burning through him wasn't destruction. It was protection. Not rage, a love. For the sister he'd just found. For the father he'd never known. For the pack that should have been his from birth. He stopped fighting the power and let it consume him completely. The transformation was instant. Not a full shift, something else entirely, something new. His skin glowed silver gold, his eyes blazing with the same light. The silver chains melted off him like water, the metal harmless against his hybrid nature. Valerius's eyes widened.
Impossible.
Liam moved. He crossed 30 feet in a blink, moving through the rogues like they were shadows. His hand closed on the silver blade at Alara's throat, and instead of burning, the metal bent in his grip like clay. He ripped it away, pulling the sister behind him in one fluid motion. "Your turn to choose, Valerius." Liam's voice resonated with power, with certainty. "Run, or face what you created." The elder's face twisted with rage and fear. He reached for something in his coat, a vial filled with black liquid. "If I can't have the future, no one will." He threw it at Alara. Time slowed. Liam saw the vial spinning through the air, black poison catching the light like liquid death. Saw Alara's silver eyes widen behind him. Saw his father already moving, too far away, too slow. He didn't think, didn't calculate, just moved. His body intercepted the vial mid-flight, glass shattering against his chest. The poison hit his skin and burned, acid hot, sinking through flesh toward his heart. Silver-lace nightshade, designed to kill shifters instantly, to stop their healing before it could start. Liam gasped, dropping to his knees as fire spread through his veins. His vision darkened. This was it. This was how he died, just like his mother, protecting what mattered most. But then the moondust vial in his pocket grew warm. The silver gold glow that had been flickering across his skin suddenly blazed brilliant, blinding. The poison in his bloodstream meant something else, something ancient and powerful encoded in his very DNA. The formula his mother had sung to him, hidden in a lullaby, activated by pure instinct and desperate love. Moon and ember, silver and gold. Heal the broken, mend the old. The poison didn't kill him. It transformed him. Liam's eyes snapped open, no longer just silver gold but luminous, radiant. The burn wounds on his chest sealed and vanished. The silver that should have stopped his heart instead awakened something deeper, the true hybrid nature his mother had protected, the immunity that made him bridge rather than weapon. He stood, and the entire courtyard fell silent. Impossible. Valerius breathed, backing away. No one survives concentrated nightshade. No one. He's not just anyone. Lucas's voice rang with something Liam had never heard before.
Pride.
He's the Ember Heart. The prophecy made flesh. Liam reached for Alara, who threw herself into his arms despite the blood and chaos. Where his glowing hands touched the silver burn on her throat, the wound healed instantly, perfectly, without even a scar. She gasped, wonder replacing fear. How? Mom's gift. Liam's voice was steady now, certain. He looked at Valerius, who stood cornered by the king's guards, his rogues either dead or surrendering. She didn't create a weapon. She created a healer. The elder lunged one final time, silver dagger flashing toward Liam's heart. Liam caught his wrist effortlessly. The blade touched his skin and bent, harmless. It's over, Valerius. Your war ends here. The king's guards took the elder away, his protests echoing through the garden until they faded to nothing. The remaining council members emerged from shelter, staring at Liam with expressions ranging from awe to terror to reluctant acceptance. Lucas approached slowly, stopping just before his son. For a long moment, they simply looked at each other. Two strangers bound by blood, by loss, by the woman who'd loved them both. I should have searched harder, the king said quietly. Should have found you sooner. Your mother did what she thought was right. Liam's throat tightened. She kept me safe until I was ready. Until now. And now. Lucas's golden eyes searched his face. I can suppress your abilities if you choose. Give you a normal life, away from pack politics and danger. Let you be the child you should have been. Liam looked at Alara, still holding his hand. At the citadel rising behind them, no longer a prison but a home. At the guards who'd risked everything to save him. At his father, offering him freedom, but hoping for something else. I've been running my whole life, Liam said. Hiding what I am, who I am. I'm done running. 3 days later, the entire Shadow Pack gathered in the Great Hall for the first time in a decade. Liam stood beside his father on the raised platform, wearing formal pack colors, crimson and silver, that felt both strange and right. Lucas's voice carried to every corner of the vast chamber. The prophecy spoke of one born of two worlds, one who would heal what has been broken, unite what has been divided. I present to you Prince Liam Kale, my son and heir, bearer of the Ember Heart. The hall erupted in howls, the traditional pack acceptance, a sound that raised the hair on Liam's arms and filled something hollow in his chest he hadn't known was empty. Alara beamed up at him from her place of honor. The council members bowed, even the ones who'd wanted him dead days ago. The guards who'd tracked him, interrogated him, saved him, now knelt in respect. And for the first time since his mother died, Liam felt it. Home. Pack. Belonging. He met his father's eyes and saw understanding there. Lucas placed a hand on his shoulder, the touch of an alpha and a father. Welcome home, son. Liam smiled, his silver gold eyes bright with tears and triumph and the beginning of everything he'd been born to become. I'm ready. Outside, the moon rose full and brilliant over the Blackwood Citadel, and in its light, A street kid who'd found a dying girl in an alley finally became the prince he was always meant to be. The Ember Heart had awakened, and the Shadow Pack would never be the same.